Hey, so I wanted to make a video about this idea in the spiritual community. It's often in communities that talk about, different spiritual topics online, like the basis of what's going on in politics these days. There's often this reference to energy. People will say, I read energy, and I can tell you based on that, this thing is going to happen. So one of the people that I sometimes follow, and I'll put a link to one or two of her videos, is Gia Prism. And she talks about shifts in energy. And she recently talked about an important shift in energy here in the United States about just related to politics, saying that based on the energy she was reading, that she was seeing a real likelihood of substantial change from what's been going on. And, it just sounds so esoteric, so weird. And I was out here on my walk and I just missed the sunset. I wish I could capture another sunset, but I just barely missed it. But I wanted to record a few of these thoughts that I was having when I was out here on this walk. And about this idea, what does somebody mean with energy? And I was thinking about, like today, earlier, I was describing how energy can shift related to the example of like a car. Like, let's say you have a car and it's, it's not like something, you're not somebody maybe in this scenario, you're not somebody who is like in love with having a fancy car or whatever. You just mainly have your car for your transportation to get around and to, play that role. And your car breaks down once in a while. Okay, no big deal. You can go get it fixed. And so your energy is still like, yeah, this car is serving the purpose. Now, there's a difference between the energy of that thought and the rationality of that thought. A lot of people get those two things confused because in our world today, so much of everything is ascribed to rationality and reason. But to illustrate this more is the point of, I'm just seeing a car, but it's not coming down the trail here. So anyway, it's this idea of, let's say your car gets to the point where you have to fix it one too many times. It's just breaking down a little bit more often, and you just don't fully trust it. Now, pure reasoning would say, well, it depends on your premises, but one common pure reasoning mode would be to say, well, like I could save more money if I just continued to fix this car. Another reasoning mode would say, well, I value my safety and I don't want to be stranded, and so I should get something new. But if you look at the energy underlying that, it's really a feeling, it's an emotion, it's an energy of like, am I still content with this situation? Or am I beyond the point of no return where I'm just like, no, I'm ready for something new. I'm going to go out and find a way, if I have to get a loan or whatever, I'm done with this situation with my car. I'm no longer satisfied. And so it's time. It's time for that new car. That's what I mean by energy. Now, we can often justify those decisions with a bunch of reasoning things of like, oh, this and that, like, I really don't want to be stranded or I really don't like this. But at the basis of a decision like that is just, are we content enough with that situation or happy enough with that situation? Or are we now just like, I'm done with that. I'm really done with that situation and I am ready for something new. And then inviting the new in and then justifying all of that with reasoning so that we think it's all our reasoning mind doing this when underlying it, it's energy. That's what I mean by energy. And I really wanted to explain that, especially in our current world today, because in our world, I think a lot of people are thinking that if we could just change this political situation we're in, change the administration or whatever, if we could just fix that one problem, that everything would go back to sort of normal. But I think you probably, if you're an astute listener who listens to how you feel, you're probably like, no, why would we go back, right? If you're having that feeling, That is the energy we're talking about. And I have seen more and more people shifting away from the energy of like, let's try to go back to where we were. Let's try to fix the existing things that we had and make do with what we had, which, granted, what we had here in the United States and worldwide sort of worked for some people for 80 some odd years. But it has really, like this recent period in history has really, I think, increased that energy of discontent. Just that idea of like, no, no, thank you. And I'm not saying this is universal, not saying for everybody. There are definitely people who are still like, yes, let's please go back. Let's please, reinstate the existing systems. But there was an example of this shift that I was saying is it was a conversation a while ago with a neighbor. And I'm like, I think some of the things that are happening are going to really cause problems with the economy. And he's like, yeah, that's unfortunate, but I just think we need to burn it all down so we can start over. Again, that's that discontent. It's an energy of just saying, this thing that we had, that we built as a society and we all were part of is no longer serving us. It's no longer feeling adequate. It's no longer satisfying. And so I think when somebody makes a statement like, hey, this situation is really going to shift. I read the energy and this situation is going to shift. What they're really saying is, I tuned into the sort of more mass collective consciousness, which again, some individuals may be different, but just sort of the bulk, the mass, the sort of mental voting, the mental majority of people who are just like so done with it, who are just like, no, we got to, nope, time for kind of a reset of some sort. And when you look at things at that level, it tells you so much about what's going to happen, because it's always that energy that leads first. Like if I could read the energy that somebody has become discontent with their car, unless their energy shifts, I can tell you within a few months, they're very, very, very likely to have a new car or some kind of replacement, some kind of different situation, because they've become discontent with that situation. Now, sometimes people will talk themselves into, using the reasoning mind, talk themselves into sticking with something that's not working that well for them, that they don't have very positive energy around. And that can create a lot of friction for them and for people around them, of like, one day they seem like okay with the situation, and then the next day they're very dissatisfied, and the next day they're okay with it again. It can create that kind of chaos and seeming problems back and forth and back and forth. But at the end of the day, if the energy is consistently there of like, this is not satisfying, that situation is going to change. And it doesn't just apply at the personal level, it applies at the collective level, at the large scale collective level. And so when somebody like Geoprism or any of the other folks are saying, I've sensed that there is this energy shift that has happened, what they're really tuning into is that, yeah, there aren't enough people satisfied. Like, enough people have joined in the dissatisfaction and the desire for just, getting rid of this and doing something different and new. Then that getting rid of this and doing something different, new, is going to happen. What specific shape it takes, the specific circumstances aren't as predictable, but the predictability is in that something's going to happen. And I totally agree with her, like with our current systems, that we have reached that point of no return, that it's like everybody's looking at what's happening and nobody is really satisfied, regardless of what side of the political spectrum we're on. Nobody, except for a very small handful of people who are gaining from what's been happening, are satisfied. And so that means it is going to shift one way or another. That's going to become sort of our reality. So I thought I'd share that with you today. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, please give me a like, subscribe for the work that I do here. I really appreciate that. That helps me reach more people and keep doing it. It's just a little encouragement that you can give for me to, like, because I was thinking, do I really want to stop and record a video today about this? But I'm like, this is such a an important insight I want to share for people to explain this vague term of energy. So please help me keep doing things like this, and I'll try to keep stopping on my walks and things like that, and talking about stuff. So this is Morgan Giddings for Inner Ways Forward. I'll see you later.